No, Shirley.
Why not? What are you afraid of?
Well, it's just that you're inexperienced.
That's why I want to learn. I'll be careful.
I know.
Don't you trust me?
Sure, it's not that.
Then what is it?
Well, look at all this traffic. Somebody might...
What traffic? That's why we came here, remember? It's perfect. Look, you told me yourself it's almost as easy as riding a bicycle. Come on, please.
Well, it means that much to you, okay. Girls, all alike. Just remember, I worked hard to pay for this thing, and if you wreck it, you're in big trouble, lady.
Relax, I can do it. Just give me the facts.
This is the rear brake right here, just that. Is that?
Here,
Like Shirley, a lot of people these days are eager to experience the joy of mopedling. That's a fact of life. The number of mopeds on the nation's streets is increasing rapidly as people of all ages fall in love with this unique form of transportation. The reasons for the public's growing romance with the moped are fairly obvious. Compared to the automobile, a moped is inexpensive to purchase and maintain. A moped has an automatic transmission, which makes the vehicle easy to operate in traffic. And perhaps most important, the typical moped averages about 135 miles per gallon of precious fuel.
You know, I think she's got the right idea.
And finally, riding a moped is just plain fun.
I love it!
Although a moped is an enjoyable and inexpensive form of transportation, the new rider must realize that it's not a toy. It's a motor vehicle, and as such must be used responsibly. The moped is subject to the same traffic laws as the other vehicles with which it shares the road. And because the moped is smaller and slower than those other vehicles, it's vital that the mopedalist acquires the knowledge, skills, and good judgment needed to ride safely in traffic. So let's take a look at the facts of life that can help make any moped-rider relationship a happy and safe one.
When you start out the engine and it's cold, don't forget to use the choke so it'll shut off.
The most obvious fact is that the novice must become thoroughly familiar with the machine before riding in traffic. First, some general information. As the word moped suggests, the vehicle employs two power sources, a motor and pedals. While there are many models on the market, all mopeds are equipped with single-cylinder engines rated at between 1 and 2 horsepower and capable of producing speeds of between 20 and 30 miles an hour. Horsepower and maximum speeds allowable are determined by state laws. The pedals are used to start the machine and to allow human power to assist the engine on takeoffs and on hills. At other times, they serve as footrests. The prospective buyer should be aware that most states require the vehicle to have operable pedals and an automatic transmission to merit the benefits of special moped laws. The buyer should also be sure the moped meets federal safety standards. Required safety equipment includes headlight, tail and stop lights, reflectors, rear view mirror, and an extra switch to stop the engine. Before taking that first ride, the beginner must become completely familiar with the moped's controls and starting procedure. Basic controls include the fuel valve, which starts and stops the flow of fuel to the carburetor, an ignition switch, a choke which aids in starting a cold engine, the throttle controlled by the right hand grip, and the front and rear brake levers. These are mounted on the handlebars.
Okay, then you just push it off the kick.
The moped should always be started outdoors because, like a car, it produces exhaust, which contains poisonous carbon monoxide. The dealer can demonstrate the correct way to start a particular model. A moped is usually started on its stand, but many people started by pedaling on the road. The next step for the beginner is to get acquainted with the machine in operation. A quiet parking lot or side street is a good place to learn basic riding skills. At first, the new rider should concentrate on maintaining proper balance and riding position. Body erect, arms bent slightly, and feet firmly on the pedals. The novice must learn to maintain course and maneuverability at different speeds, and develop the reflexes needed to use the throttle and brakes instinctively. Control of the machine must become automatic. The beginner should practice stopping and starting frequently to get the feel of the machine's capabilities. When braking, the rider must learn to maintain a straight line and to stop at a given point. Normally, the rider should apply both the front and rear brakes in stopping. The front wheel brake supplies most of the moped's braking power, and the rider must be able to use it properly. The novice should also acquire the habit of pedaling briefly from a stop to build up speed faster. Practice leaning into turns, and learn to keep the pedals horizontal when cornering so they won't hit the ground. All these skills must be mastered before the rider takes to the streets.
You gotta talk your parents into buying one of these.
I've been working on it, but can you picture my dad riding one of these?
Why not? My grandparents do.
Riders who know the facts of life about moped safety see the wisdom in wearing a helmet, even though it's not mandatory in most states. Appropriate clothing includes a long-sleeved shirt or jacket to protect the arms, long trousers, and of course shoes or boots to protect the feet. Bicycle clips or rubber bands should be used to keep flared cuffs from becoming entangled in the moped's moving parts. Because the moped is small and has a narrow profile, the rider should do everything possible to be visible in traffic. Bright clothing and riding with the headlight on help make the rider more readily visible to motorists. The horn can help too, and the rider should not hesitate to use it. Despite these precautions, riders should always assume they are invisible to motorists. They often are. For example, here the mopedalist is hidden behind the driver's windshield post. The rider must be prepared to yield the right-of-way in this situation. The mopedalist should also be aware of blind spots behind cars. Because mopeds generally travel on the right side of the lane, they often are invisible to motorists making sudden right turns. The cautious rider avoids this problem by slowing down and putting more space between the vehicles. This makes the mopedalist visible in the driver's rearview mirror and gives the rider more time to react to a sudden turn. Since the mopedalist is even less visible in the dark, night riding should be kept to a minimum. However, when a night ride is unavoidable, the sensible rider always wears light-colored clothing, uses reflective tape on his or her jacket and helmet, and stays on well-lit streets as much as possible. Day or night, the mopedalist should use common sense in deciding where to ride. The moped was not designed for off-road use, and any attempt to take it over dirt trails could be damaging to machine and rider alike. Thoughtful riders respect the moped's docile nature and therefore limit the machine to smooth, well-paved roads and streets. Since the moped is tame and docile, even at top speed, Wise riders try to avoid competing with fast-moving traffic. Whenever possible, they choose less traveled streets over busy thoroughfares. On any street, the mopedalist must be prepared to cope with certain inevitable hazards, such as chuck holes, sewer drains, trash, and assorted automobile droppings. The alert mopedalist will reduce speed to a crawl and steer around such hazards whenever possible. Railroad tracks are another common obstacle. The rider should cross them at an angle as close to 90 degrees as possible, keeping a firm grip on the handlebars. Wet, slippery streets pose a special hazard to the mopedalist. To prevent skids, the rider should reduce speed, avoid sudden changes in direction, and allow extra braking distance. The rider should always avoid braking while in a curve, even on dry pavement. No matter how good the road, careful mopedalists always use common sense when carrying passengers and other loads. Many mopeds are strictly one-person vehicles, so riders should carry passengers only if the machine is clearly equipped for such travel and state law allows it. A passenger should hold on to the rider's waist, keep feet on the foot pegs at all times, and lean with the rider in turns. Above all, riders carrying passengers must remember to compensate for the additional weight by allowing extra stopping distance.
Was that who I thought it was?
No, it couldn't be.
Let's find out.
Transporting less lively cargo requires care too. Riders should always distribute the weight evenly between baskets to maintain good balance. Sensible riders never hand carry anything because both hands must be on the handlebars at all times. Baggage must be tied securely to the moped using elastic fasteners or tie-downs if necessary. The rider should also make sure no loose ends are hanging and that the load doesn't hide the vehicle's lights. In mopedaling, common sense and courtesy go hand in hand. Thoughtful riders signal all turns and lane changes well in advance to give motorists time to react. Being courteous helps ensure their own safety. At intersections, courteous riders are always willing to yield the right-of-way to larger, more powerful vehicles. It's just common sense to do so. Traveling in pairs, thoughtful riders never impede speedier traffic by riding side by side. If a frustrated motorist tries to squeeze by, the car may force the riders together in a most unromantic way. Experienced mopedalists avoid such entanglements by riding single file, keeping an adequate space cushion between themselves and other vehicles. A moped's speed is reduced considerably when climbing steep hills. So if traffic starts to back up, the courteous rider will pull off the road and let motorists pass unhindered. Of course, there are always a few thoughtless riders who seem bent on endangering both themselves and others. They're the ones who weave in and out of traffic, ride illegally on sidewalks, and take occasional shortcuts through the corner gas station.
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
If such foolish riders survive to a ripe old age, it won't be because they haven't made enemies. Courteous mopedalists, on the other hand, always ride within the bounds of law and reason. They share the road willingly, showing respect for the rights of other motorists and pedestrians. Among the facts of life dealing with moped safety, none is more important than the maxim that says, always expect the unexpected. Riders who live by this rule try to anticipate safety problems before they occur. It begins with a pre-ride inspection to make sure the moped is in safe working order. Are the brake levers operating smoothly? Are all the cables connected? Are tires properly inflated and free of cuts or other damage? chain tight enough? Is the throttle working smoothly? Are lights, switches, and horn all working? A pre-ride inspection may take a little time, but if it prevents an accident, it's time well spent. In traffic, riders who expect the unexpected practice a defensive attitude. They keep their eyes moving, scanning the road for potential hazards. They use the rear view mirror and frequent head checks to stay aware of traffic behind them. Defensive riders always assume a car door will open at the most inopportune time, so they're seldom surprised. And because a ball rolling into the street is often followed by an impetuous child, defensive riders will always be ready for a sudden stop. Even at a green light, defensive riders slow down and check traffic before proceeding. It should be obvious by now that learning to ride a moped safely is not really difficult. The beginner should keep these 3 basic facts of life in mind. First, become thoroughly familiar with the machine and its operation before riding in traffic. Second, use common sense and courtesy when riding. Make yourself visible, ride on less traveled streets as much as possible, and yield the right-of-way to larger vehicles. And third, always expect the unexpected. Be a defensive rider.
Oh my gosh, when did you get this?
Just now.
I can't believe he actually bought one.
Yep, from now on, this is the way I get to work.
Can I try it out?
Well, you've got to know what you're doing.
It's all right. I taught her the facts of life. About moped safety, I mean.